Mind maps are a great tool for planning and managing projects. Hi, I'm Gideon King, owner of Novamind Software, and in this video I'll show you how to plan your projects and how to use those project plans for scope management, communicating project goals, and getting the buy-in of all stakeholders. The earlier video on to-do lists introduced you to the basic concepts of organizing your requirements using mind mapping. Now we'll extend that to look at project planning specifics. But let's first ask the question, what's wrong with the age-old standard project management packages like Microsoft Project and Merlin? Well, they certainly do give you good tools to manage your projects, but they really have a strong tendency to get people focusing on the minute task levels of projects far too early in the inception phases of a project, and also they're not very good tools for communicating the requirements to other people. This means that you can easily lose sight of the main objectives of the project or get so stuck in the details that you forget some important tasks or objectives, and also if you need to bring new resources onto a project, it can take quite some time to get them up to speed. But the planning for a successful project begins way before you get to the fine task level. There's a whole inception phase of the project where the relevant information is collected together and organized so that you have a clear understanding of the scope, time, cost, quality, resources, communications, risks, and of course, the stakeholder requirements for the project. Often this information is gathered as large specification documents which are hard to navigate around and understand the requirements, but all of these areas can benefit from the use of mind mapping, and you can create mind maps to represent each knowledge area and have branches for the details and hyperlinks to other documents and resources where required. Time doesn't permit us to go into detail for each of these different areas now, so we'll concentrate on the actual work itself for a start. As you start a project, you need to define what the major objectives are, and each one of these objectives will become a first level branch of the mind map like this. Then for projects of any reasonable size, these objectives get further broken down into sub-objectives that contribute to the achievement of the major objectives, or the major work areas contributing to the overall objectives. These become the second level branches like this. And finally, it's broken down into actual tasks that must be performed like this. Obviously, this is flexible and you only need to use as many levels as necessary for your project, and perhaps for a large project you'll need more levels. But when you get down to the task level, you'll probably want to assign resources to the tasks, which is something that you can do in the Platinum edition of Novamind. You can create resources in the Windows version of Novamind like this. Of course, the resources usually refer to people, but can also refer to other resources which have a limited availability, like vehicles and meeting rooms. And here's how you do this in the Mac version. Now, to assign the resources to the different tasks on Windows, we select the branch and check the boxes for the resources we want to allocate to the branches like this. And if you want to remove a resource from a branch, just select the branch and uncheck that resource. On the Mac version, we just drag the resource or a collection of resources directly onto the branch, or we can select a branch and drag the resources onto the resource panel. If you want to remove a resource from a branch, select the branch, and in the Resources panel, select the one that you want to remove and click the minus button. This will not remove the resource from the resource pool, it will just unassign it from that branch. While we're at the task level, let's look at the rest of the task information that you can assign to a branch. You can set the priority and have a visual indication on the branch so you can see the priorities of tasks at a glance. Next we have the percentage complete. If you set it to -1, then it doesn't show a percentage complete on the branch, but setting it anywhere from 0% to 100% shows it on that branch. With the start and finish time and duration, if you set 2 of these values, you can automatically calculate the other one like this. So now we've seen the mechanics of this, let's talk about why this is so useful. You can see how easy it is to structure your project into objectives and then go right down to the task and resource level. This means that you can use brainstorming techniques to come up with the right ideas and objectives. The techniques used for brainstorming are covered in a different video. As you go through the brainstorming exercise, you'll fully explore the options for the project in much more breadth and depth than you would ever cover in a requirements document. Then you can do the assessment of the ideas and objectives and make sure that the ones that you want are retained, and then look at the budget and time constraints and go through a scoping exercise. Mind maps are a great way to manage project scope because you can remove a branch or sub-branch without impacting the other branches, and you know that it takes the appropriate tasks and resources with it. This makes it easy to make sure that there's nothing forgotten in the early planning and scoping parts of the project, as well as being a great tool for presenting the project to all the stakeholders. If you're trying to get funding for a project, it makes it much easier when the project plan is drawn out on a mind map. Everyone can see what the objectives are for the project, how they're going to be achieved, the tasks that are required to achieve the outcomes, as well as the resources that are required. When the project sponsors see in the mind map all the things that need to be done to achieve their objectives, they'll understand the basis for the project costs and can make much better informed decisions on scoping and overall outcomes. This means that it's much more likely that they'll accept the costings that you've provided because they can see where their money is going. Everyone can see clearly what the objectives are, how they're going to be achieved, and what resources are going to be required. They may also decide to take some of the main objective branches and move them into a new phase in the project so that it can be done properly rather than trying to fit it in an unreasonable time frame. But what if you need to bring someone up to speed on a project that's already underway? Mind maps are very useful in briefing new team members on the project. When a new team member is assigned to the project, the mind maps will give them a picture of the overall project goals. The mind maps give a graphical overview of the tasks, how they relate to each other, and their importance and impact on the greater scheme of things. The new team member can then be introduced to their individual role in the project and will be able to quickly see what their responsibilities are and how these responsibilities relate to the overall project goals. This gives a better understanding of what and how they will contribute to the team and the project. Often this will lead to them volunteering their skills for tasks that you may not have assigned them to because they understand that they can make a strong contribution to the project in that area. You very quickly have their buy-in on the project, whether they're coming in at the start of a project or partway through. They can see exactly where they fit in, why they are needed, and how they can contribute. Now, of course, during the running of your project, you would use a dedicated project management package like MS Project or Merlin to handle the detailed running of the project, and you can transfer your project information to Merlin or any project management package that reads the Microsoft Project XML file format, which is just about all the project management software currently available. So as you can see, Novamind is a great tool, particularly for the inception phases of projects. We've heard about using mind maps for brainstorming requirements, scoping, time, cost and quality management, assigning resources, communicating project requirements and managing risks. When you use mind mapping in this way, you'll be able to manage the scope of projects better, make sure that no requirements are left out, have better communication with the stakeholders and sponsors, and have better buy-in from your staff working on the project. All of these things add up to better managed projects and more successful projects.